Well and beautifully to us. Let's move on and talk about the markets, individual sectors. Devang Mehta, Director of Equity Advisory at Spark Private Wealth Management, joining us on the show now. Devang, what are you advising to your clients now? Do you think the worst is behind? It's time to go out there and make all your investment or stagger it?
Thanks, Rima, for having me on the show. I think, yes, on your channel last time around also, I think the advice was that during such times, right, either you get good prices or you get good valuations or you get sort of good news. So I think the prices and valuations were sort of quite cheap. And I still say that after this huge rally, and I know it is very difficult to probably call it, some people will call it a bounce back, some will call it a relief rally, some will call it a sort of a real rally. So that will only be known in the hindsight, that whether it is a real rally or it's just a relief rally. But I think our control or our controllable is whether positives outweighs negatives. I think probably in the last 15-20 days, the market participants have realized that there are so many, I think, good points that one can note, right from reducing inflation in India, to sort of also industrial production rising. I also had a look at the manufacturing, HSBC manufacturing PMI, which sort of also is again higher than July 2024, the highest number since July 2024, which says that a lot of capex, even private capex, is coming back to the fore, be it Kumbh Mela, be it the wedding season. I think also consumption sort of has picked up rural and on the urban side. My sense is there are larger positives on the anvil than negatives. Plus FII is coming back. Again, I am not making this statement because just seeing the last 4-5 day statement. But ideally, I think it is now the selling pressure has sort of with less intensity. And I think there is some buying also, which is done by domestic investors as well. So my sense from here on, probably if you have a 2-3 year horizon, the next 2-3 months will present you good opportunities. There will be volatility on the way, considering the April 2nd tariff announcements as well. But ideally, there is less downside, more upside, less risk, more reward.
Absolutely take your point, Devang. Devang, you mentioned a couple of important points. You said that probably the worst is behind. You said that valuations now are a lot more palatable. In that, in that context, which sectors, which stocks are the ones that you're liking? Where are you advising clients to go ahead and add positions?
Vivek, ideally, we've generally been, I can say, very, very firm in our call that there are themes and there are sectors. I think there is a very easy statement to say that we are bottom up, but certain themes you need to understand. And those themes are, I think, India probably right now, if you talk, the Nifty is around 70% of Nifty is into banks or IT companies or FMCG or for that matter, oil and gas. I think a lot of money is to be made outside of the index, right? There are sunrise sectors. There are a lot of sectors. I think I was just listening to your conversation about priority sector lending, renewables, power automation. There is air compression. There is water management. I think a lot of such themes, which is into lamination, stamping. I think all such micro themes. Semiconductor is another theme which probably one can play by buying a lot of proxy plays rather than the usual capital goods or usual structure type of themes. So I think there are a lot of micro themes which have corrected. Yes, there's this fall in more of mid caps and small caps. A lot of such themes have corrected. I think if there is cash flows, if there is going to be profitability in this companies growing at say 18 to 25%, I think there is no problem buying such themes if you feel India is going to go up the capex curve as well as the consumption is going to improve. I think manufacturing, engineering, this type of companies will also keep on doing well. Even ER&D type of themes will do well.
Understood that. Which are the sectors, especially in the context of the impending tariffs, will you stay away from? Are you right now a little cautious on pharma or some of the export-oriented sectors?
I think, yes, we generally have been more domestic-centric. We clearly know that in India for the next 3 to 5 years, domestic-centric stories or sort of anything that has to do with either domestic cyclicality or domestic even consumption or that, for that matter, even something related to financials will do well. Having said that, yes, to answer your question, there are a lot of themes in the export-oriented. IT would not get impacted much because I think they rely on Indian IT services more often. Pharma, yes, there is a probability that there can be some tariffs. I think some clarity will emerge post the first week of April. But ideally, as I said, we would be more, I think, inclined towards buying domestic-centric stories. I think globally, every week it was changing, every month now it changes, every weekend, every hour the narrative changes. So it's very difficult to take a call on global cyclicals and something which is export dependent.
Understood that. Now, when it comes to the Indian BFSI space, where does your priority, or where does your preference lie? Is it the larger private financials? Is it the NBFCs? Or would you also look at some of the MFIs? A lot of them have corrected more than 50-60% from the recent peaks.
I think the most interesting part about the BFSI is that, and I always make this a point, out of the 400 lakh crore of market cap in India, there is around 100 lakh crores of BFSI, and there are large banks, there are large NBFCs. But I think the sector which is still extremely small in terms of market cap and also penetration, and there is a rising ultra HNIs, which are sort of coming to the fore, and also there is financialization happening. So I think the proxy to play this is via depositories. The proxy to play this is via wealth management firms, via broking companies, via exchanges. I think this is one theme, even AMCs, which probably will see a lot more penetration happening in India, plus the wealth effect, the rising incomes, I think will also help this type of sort of industry to sort of do very well. So my sense in financials as a BFSI, if I can say, banks would be your usual 12-14% type compounders. But if somebody wants a little bit of more alpha, I think this is the sectors. These are the sectors which I talked about.
Devang, consumption in India was played via the hotels theme. It was played by the premium discretionary spending, food delivery guys over the QSR. So Swiggy, Zomato had a great run. They've corrected now in the last couple of months in this correction that we've seen. But QSRs had taken a complete backseat. Macquarie is now talking about, they've come out with a report, Mangalam was telling us, and how they prefer QSRs over the food delivery guys at the current juncture. Your thoughts on QSR, and is that a consumption play to your mind?
I think so far we have sort of not taken any sort of view on QSRs as such. We've been considering QSRs as well as the likes of the food aggregators. But our model of looking at cash flows, our model looking at free cash flows or operating cash flows, generating incremental ROEs, the business which generate incremental ROEs, and the businesses which grow at sort of abnormally higher rates. If we look at this type of businesses, I think then there are certain hotel companies which have deleveraged themselves. We also look at organized retail. I've talked about multiple times. I talked about and again, not saying whether not recommending the stock, but I think this type of companies have also corrected. I think there is more money here rather than getting into themes where there is a sort of uncertainty, as well as there is also a sort of whether cash flows will be there or not. So my sense, be in hotels, be in type of aviation, be in the businesses where sort of you're seeing phenomenal growth over the period.
Thank you so much, Devang, for joining us, giving us a view on the markets, your preferred sectors, as well as your views on the entire BFSI pack. Time now for a short break. We'll get back with Prashant Pitti, co-founder of Ease My Trip, to discuss the company's foray in charter aviation market, as well as much more.